Nintendo Directs are something that everyone looks forward to. We get announcements on new games and more info on games in development. One of those games mentioned in a Direct was Astral Chain, a new game by Platinum Games. It seemed like an interesting idea, dealing with futuristic cops controlling some kind of creature on a chain. It looked cool, but when I started looking at the names of the people who developed it, I got more and more excited. Hideki Kamiya supervised, of course. Wait, the director of this game worked on Metal Gear Rising and was the senior game designer for Nier Automata? The composer of this game also did music for Bayonetta 2 and Nier Automata? If done right, this game should be fucking amazing! So, now that the game is out, is all the excitement worth it? I think I'll just let this anime-ass intro speak for itself. Weird, Judgment had one of those too. Are Japanese games just going to have intros like this now? 'Cause I'd be fine with that.
Sky turns west, swallowing up each and every being in this town. Hopes, hearts, everything is falling down.
Far away in the skyline, crowd of apparitions crawling around. It's calling, growing louder.
Are we the future of this burning hell? It's a fight for our paradise, fight for our life. So keep holding on until we break the spell. Free yourself, reach for the light in darkness and despair. If there comes a time when you are falling down, I'll be your savior. I'll be your savior.
I should start off by saying that this review will have spoilers in it, so be warned. Also, I can't go into every single little detail, so context will be needed to understand what I'm talking about, but I will still give as much context as I can. Anyway, so let's start off with the story. We start off with cutscenes showing how legions are made. Legions are stands/personas for the game, FYI. You choose which sibling to be, and the other one will be your mouthpiece for the early game. After that, we start right in the middle of a mission, where we eventually get our own legions. After that, we are assigned to solve a chimera case. Chimeras are the main enemies of the game. During said case, everyone with legion gets lost in the astral plane. Everyone loses their legion except you. Our dad stays behind to let the rest of us escape. Now our goal is to reclaim the lost legions, find our dad, stop the chimeras, and save humankind from extinction. Oh yeah, forgot to mention that this is a post-apocalyptic game. The aesthetic and marketing for this game do not give off that vibe at all. The story of this game is, well, it's not bad per se. I'd say it's good, but missing a ton of details, and while the base story is fine, there's a lot of omitted info and also wasted potential in some cases. Guess I'll start with what I liked before I get into what I had problems with. The main story is kind of predictable. Like, you can't tell how every single little thing will go right from the start, but I was able to tell how the plot will play out pretty much before the halfway point of the game. However, what I do need to give praise to is how things are revealed. Like I said, you can tell what will happen, but when it happens and how it is handled is done in a really cool or interesting way. Just for a quick example, the reveal of who the person in black armor is or what the ravens really are. You can tell what is going on before it happens, but just the way it happens is cool. The main cast of characters might be kind of boring and flat, but our villains make up for it. They both want to save humanity, but in drastically different ways, and both ways still end up being a destructive way to go about it, but they can't see that. They're pretty much two sides of the same coin. It's an interesting dichotomy. It's not a unique trope, but it is a rare one, and it is a nice change of pace. We usually get that for a main hero and their main villain, but rarely do I see that for two villains. A lot of the good aspects of the story you should see for yourself, but trust me, it's done well. Alright, gripe time. A lot of important details seem to be missing from the plot. They seem to go for the route that Nier did, where some things are left vague in order for people to interpret what is going on and come to their own conclusions for certain details. In theory, that works fine, but in practice, there are some problems with this method. For one thing, while Nier did have vague gaps in the story, they were usually for side characters or small events. The main story was usually clear and concise. The stuff they tease in the plot is usually explained later on. I mean, even if it wasn't, it would be in some novel or stage play or drama CD or some stupid shit like that. But regardless, the main plot was explained well enough. Here, plenty of important details are constantly brought up and are never explained in the story. There may be some file or something in the game that may explain it, but I feel that would only work if it was offhandedly mentioned or something, not made to be a big point that is never explained. Like, if it was mentioned once and then never again in some side mission or something, and you unlock the explanation after that mission or some other objective, that'd be fine, but that usually doesn't happen. It's like the reverse, where background details are explained in files or the main story, but the important stuff is just left out to dry. I have 2 examples. It is mentioned a few times how one of the villains, Jenna, looks the exact same as she did after she went missing 20 years ago. It is never explained why. The theory is that she was in the astral plane and that time works differently there, but that also raises more questions. Being in the astral plane for too long gives people redshift and corrupts them, turning them into chimeras. How was she able to survive in there for so long? And how did she get her powers from that? Was it from Blue Evolve? Hell, how did a basic scientist survive such a hostile environment? Another incredibly important detail is the circumstances surrounding the birth of the player characters. Big emphasis is placed on that detail throughout the story, and so many times is it brought up, and the answer to that will explain why the twins are so in sync with their legions right off the bat, and why they are so durable. So, what's the reason? They're the protagonists. Duh. That may as well be the reason, since it is never told to you straight. You can find out, but only by doing something specific, and it is an optional thing to do. So, important info is optional. Okay then. Anyway, apparently the mother was redshifting while giving birth, which explains a lot, but that detail is never conveyed in the main plot despite its importance. One aspect in the story I feel is greatly underutilized is the use of the hermit in the overall narrative. Basically, they're a military force of poor people in the abandoned sector of the Ark. What is so interesting is that they seem to be able to control redshift, or are at least able to keep their humanity while still being afflicted with redshift. They keep the superhuman aspects of being a chimera while staying human. This seems like this would be a very important aspect of the plot, especially since the villains are obsessed with the salvation and evolution of humankind. Wouldn't figuring out how to control redshift be important for the overall goal of that? But no, they have a strong presence for one chapter and they are never mentioned again. Hell, they are foreshadowed as being important, and you can find secret areas hiding them before their own chapter, and there are files talking about them just one chapter prior, so they are built up as important, then just dropped and are only mentioned again in the post-game. Their goal, obtaining a substance known as Blue Evolve, is important to the plot and plays a key role, but so many people who use it get corrupted, hermits included, so how are some able to control it? It is an interesting plot device that is never brought up. Feels like they should have had a bigger role, especially Kyle. See, hacker dorks can be badasses too, ladies. Oh, wow, that was pathetic even for me. So for the story, the base plot is fine, if predictable, and the main villains are interesting enough to keep your attention. But there are so many missing details that bog the narrative down, and some plot elements could have been expanded upon better. The visuals in this game aren't the most advanced, but they still look great. The game goes for a cel-shaded look, which is very appealing, but it's not overly cartoony, so the events on screen can still be taken seriously. I also love cyberpunk out of all the different types of punks, so that definitely adds to the visual appeal. The design for the enemies and bosses are also superb. I got hit so much during battle just because I wanted to see the design. Then I found out taking pictures of the enemies does that, so now I just get hit trying to take a selfie with the horrible Eldritch abomination that I need to defeat with my nightstick. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, the enemy designs are great, if a bit, I don't know, veiny? Take a look at the designs and you'll see what I mean. The performance, though, leaves a lot to be desired. It's 30 frames per second. Now, normally that is not a deal breaker, but sometimes the Switch will sometimes drop frames in tense moments, and when too much is going on screen, the frame rate drops, so it's not even a stable 30 FPS. So visually the game looks great, minus a few technical hiccups. The gameplay is fun, but flawed. Okay, that's a stupidly obvious thing to say. How about... it works until it doesn't? It's good but needs some more work? Let me explain, I guess. One thing I need to make clear first is that this is not a pure traditional action game. While having many action elements, which I will go into, it is more of an action RPG, so stats are just as important as combos in this game. That being said, it does have a lot of action mechanics too. You've got dodges, parries, air juggle, split-second timing, delay combos, it's all still there. Let me start with the bad this time, then get to the good. The absolute worst part of the game is the default controls and the placement of all the buttons. Yeah, I'd figure getting the worst aspect of the game out of the way first, then talking about the good aspects after leaves a more positive view on the game. I did enjoy it, despite issues, but I guess that would be spoiling my overall verdict. Wait, shit! Your main attack buttons are on the shoulder buttons. But you can choose other button configurations if you don't like the default, so that's good! Phew, that was close. Anyway, the main attack button is on the ZR button. Your Legion is on ZL. Their special ability on L, and to dismiss your Legion is R. It doesn't sound too bad by description, but 3 of the 4 main buttons are solely for your Legion, each has multiple functions. For example, ZL might summon your Legion, but it also allows you to move them to your command instead of automatically like normal. And then if you press the attack button, you fly to their location. The game has many mechanics that use multiple buttons like this, and it can be very easy to mix up what does what, which is imperative to know in a fast-paced game. Like I said, you can customize it, but it is still a lot to remember, even hours into the game. My fingers look like roller coasters every time I play this game. The dodging in this game isn't the best. The invincibility frames either are stupidly tiny or don't exist, and it always seemed impossible for me to do last-minute dodges to get their perks. I would dodge out of the way at fine moments and still get hit. The dodge seemed to have a whole second delay after I pushed the button, and even if I managed to dodge fine, I always seem to still get hit. It seems less responsive. Not to mention you can't dodge out of animations. I get if it's a fancy sync attack or something, you're stuck in the animation and can take damage during, but I should be able to dodge whenever during normal combat. I can dodge before an attack initiates or after the animation ends, but I should be able to dodge anytime in between. It has the gimp where you can only dodge 3 times in a row so you don't abuse it, so the balance is there, but that should mean I should still be able to dodge whenever, normally. The lack of a jump in this game is also an issue. It's fine if you don't have the ability to jump in a game, that's not the issue. However, given the fact that you can do air combos, a jump would have been very useful. If you can launch enemies in the air, it only makes sense to jump in order to follow up the combo. Yeah, it's an RPG and not a full-on action game, but if the option is there, give it to us. If you don't want to give us a jump, at least make the enemies a bit more floaty so that the ground combos can keep them locked up in the air. But most enemies have weight, so that's a bit difficult to do. This problem is a bit mitigated by the fact that Legions can follow up launcher combos, and you do unlock the ability to have combos that launch you into the air, allowing air combos, but it would seem easier just to cut out the middleman and give us a normal jump. Jumping would also help make the regular platforming sections more precise, but that's a topic for later. My last complaint is that sometimes there's too much visual noise. Too much stuff can be on screen all at once, and makes it difficult to tell what's going on, which also doesn't help when the frame rate starts to chug during these moments. Okay, now we can start talking about the good aspects of the gameplay. Like most games, there's not much of the combat starting out, but at a certain point, the combat really begins to open up and becomes really fun. You have 3 main weapons: a stun baton, which is used for quick strikes, though doesn't do much damage, a gun, which gives you a long range attack and is fast, though also doesn't do much damage, and a giant sword, which is very slow, but hits very hard and looks sick and is my baby, and I cherish this thing. Stop making me switch from this weapon! There's not much when it comes to non-Legion combat, but it gets the job done and is still very fun. You also have your 5 Legions, which makes up most of the variety of the combat, especially since each Legion has their own special skill. Sword Legion is the most balanced, being fast and executing quick attacks, but not doing the most damage. Its skill is relying on manual cut to be performed, which honestly works better in exploration than in combat. It just takes a while to line it up right, and unlike in Revengeance, doesn't slow things down to allow you to line up the strike properly. The Arrow Legion is your long-range Legion that doesn't do much damage, but is the fastest and has the best range, and its special skill allows you to manually aim a shot. The Arm Legion is mostly melee-based, but has the ability to move around certain platforms, and throw certain environmental items, and special ability allows you to directly control and attack with it, and insert joke here. The Beast Legion allows you to ride it, and can track certain items or people. It is the most useful outside of combat. Finally, the Axe Legion is the strongest and always has a shield active, but is incredibly slow. Its special ability allows you to control said shield and even place some sword-shaped landmines. Each having their own unique ability adds to combat and exploration and makes up for the lack of unique special skills, as most share the same ones. Not only do you have these legions, you have the best part of the combat that also concerns them, sync attacks. After the end of every combo, or under certain circumstances, you have moments where your legion will sync up attacks with you. These are so satisfying and so cool each and every time. It's easily the best part of the combat and really shows coordination between the main character and their legion well. It may seem like it gets old, but because some of the animations are so crunchy and look so cool, it doesn't really get old, especially as you unlock more sync attacks and get better at the game. Lastly, you have Legion Fusion, in which you pretty much become your own legion. Visually, it looks so fucking cool, and is introduced in a hype way and has some cool animations. But it's more of a get out of jail free card than a full on mechanic. It's more of a super mode and less of a new way of playing the game, especially since there aren't that many moves in its move pool. But god damn, it's a cool transformation that has its own theme song each time you use it! So the combat has some issues, namely with dodging and jumping, but the core combat is fun and varied enough that you can ignore it, until crucial need of a good jump or dodge would be useful. There are some platforming and puzzle elements here to make the base gameplay not as monotonous. The puzzles are fairly simple, but it allows for some brain usage in levels. Platforming is also a thing, and you mostly use your Legion for it, which is cool, but as stated before, a jump would have helped too. I get for large gaps and for corner jumps you need a Legion, but for little gaps that look like you just walk over them, a chain jump feels unnecessary, and a basic jump works just fine. But both puzzles and platforming in this game are fine either way. The music is fine. It's average. It's just another game soundtrack. I don't hear anything. Okay, I can't even fake it. The soundtrack is a bop. It's not just one genre, so there's no generalized way I can describe what the soundtrack is like, but there are elements of rock, electronica, and synth. There are other kinds of music in this that don't rely on the previously mentioned aspects of the music, so there's a lot of variety in the soundtrack. It's not quite the level of Automata, but it's still good. Then again, Automata's soundtrack is my favorite video game soundtrack of all time, so that's gonna be tough to beat. But yeah, the music is really good. The bosses in this game are, on the whole, pretty good, but only a couple stand out, and the rest are just good. They vary in quality. Some are visually designed better than others, and some fights are more enjoyable than others. They also vary in fairness. Some bosses feel like fair fights that test your skills, and then you have those that usually have one or two really cheap attacks that seem impossible to counter in any way, be it dodging or using your legions or what have you. There are battles against human or human-like characters as well as chimeras. Sometimes the humans becoming chimeras for another boss battle. Some of these boss fights can get crazy and would seem like final bosses in other games. Then you have the boss fights that get downgraded to mini-bosses or just color swaps, which is a bit disappointing. I'd rather have one unique boss than repeating bosses with different colors. That's more padding and reusing models than adding anything new since they don't even have new attacks or patterns. It doesn't happen too often, but it happens just often enough to be noticeable and a bit, I don't want to say lazy, since I get why it's done sometimes, but more unique ones instead of reusing previous ones would have been nice. But the good ones are so good that it can make up for it. And of course, the final boss is pretty crazy in its own way. The bosses overall, though, are good. There are no truly bad ones in my book. The game is surprisingly long. It took me over 30 hours to beat the game on normal mode, which was not the length I was expecting. It's not a negative, mind you, but don't expect it to be a quick game you can finish on the weekend or anything. There are side missions that offer a good break from the main gameplay. They actually make you feel like a cop in some cases, such as doing detective work, catching criminals, solving crimes, etc. It's not a police simulator or anything, but it helps make the whole cop thing justified, not just generic action game protagonist that just so happens to be a cop because it's cool or something like that. The last point I want to make is how the ranking system in this game works. In most action games, you're ranked on how little damage you take, how few items you use, the amount of combos and how long they go for, how quick you can finish the stage, so on and so forth. However, if you try to do that in this game, you'll most likely get rewarded with the worst score. While those do factor into the rank, the variety of things you do in combat is what gives you a higher rank, such as using a bind, or a backstab, or special moves. It is a little counterintuitive and takes a while to get used to it, but you do get used to how it works at a certain point. Despite me making it seem like this game has more flaws than benefits, that couldn't be further from the truth. I had a ton of fun playing this. Yes, there are still some pretty big flaws with the game that keep this from being one of the greats for me, but it's still a great exclusive for the Switch, and I do highly recommend that more people check it out. I give this game an 8 out of 10. Two bodies fight with a single mind.
I don't know. But I do know that I'll keep fighting as long as she's by my side. Until the world is clean again. Until the world is peaceful again. I know someone who would have wanted it that way.
The main story is kinda predictable. Like, you can't tell how every single little thing will go right from the start, but I was able to tell how the plot will pray out. Jesus Christ. Okay. Like, if it was mentioned once and then never again in some side emission... Side emission. As in, like, take out the side mission. Alright, yep. Terrific typing, Adam. Terrific typing. The absolute worst part of the game is the default controls and the placement of all the buttons. Yeah, I figure getting the worst aspect of the game out of the way... than letting... What the hell? What kind of sentence is that? Alright, let me rewrite this and try it again. If you can launch enemies in the air, it only makes sense to jump up in order to follow the combo. Yeah, it's not an RPG. Yeah. You have three main weapons. A stun baton, which is used for quick strikes, though it doesn't do much damage. A gun, which gives you a long-range attack and is fast, though also fuck. Too many D's. Doesn't do much damage. Too much alliteration. Despite me making it seem like this game has more flaws than benefits, that couldn't be further from the truth. I had a ton of fun playing it. Yes, there are some I don't know what my problem is.